Oh, this is a nice surprise. We're going back onto playing Sonic and SEGA All-Stars Racing, except this time we're going to be playing it on a different version. Specifically, the PlayStation 3 version as opposed to the Xbox 360 version, which we'll explain more about that if we get this entire video started. So, hey, what's up ladies and gentlemen, it is I am the one and only Piglet here, long time no see everyone. And it's nice to be back onto the Mexi Toys department again, because obviously though, I just spend most of my time with Rarity, alongside with looking after Manaphy of course, so I digress. Enough about that particular family business or anything else like that. So, even then, welcome back for some more of Let's Play of Sonic and SEGA All-Stars Racing for the Xbox 360 / PlayStation 3 / Nintendo Wii, as well as the Nintendo DS version as part of the separate version or somewhat, and in addition to that there's also on PC and even iOS smartphones, which sadly you can no longer get that particular version anymore, assuming of course if you really want to get out of your way to able to actually go after the downgraded iPhones and all that stuff, and finally the arcade machines and all that stuff. So, as far as I'm aware, the last time we actually did play this game is that we did show off some extras and what have you, but we haven't exactly tested out the mission mode, because as far as I'm aware, for the extras that we did show off, it appears to be by the forms of we did show off the DLC with Metal Sonic and the Egg Hangar Race track, which thankfully that Egg Hangar track did manage to make its return from the likes of the forms of Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed basically, so you can able to actually play that track from the start rather than paying for DLC and stuff like that, unlike in this game in particular. And in addition to that, I also did manage to able to, if I remember correctly, we did also show off the shopping menu, and on top of that, certain extras here and there. So, as a result, no matter what though, for what I've looked back on the forms of the entire Let's Play of Sonic and SEGA All-Stars Racing, the only major focus with that particular playthrough though, is that we obviously did manage to focus on Grand Prix mode, which technically we've already done that on the Xbox 360 version. Oh, in addition to the forms of showing off the time trials here and there, which is self-explanatory. So, with that being said though, since we're now in 2024, I figured when I was able to actually tackle through mission mode throughout the majority of this particular last piece of this particular Let's Play itself, because, obviously, like I said before, this time around though, I'm going to be playing this particular game on the PlayStation 3 version, because I was originally trying to able to go on to the 360 version again, but I figured about the fact that we're most able to play certain Sonic games for PlayStation systems from now on. So, anyway, as you probably already expect, ever since back in 2017, about the fact that, gee, it's been 7 years ago almost, since we've, again, last somehow done with this game. But obviously, like I said before, we're about to decide able to actually go into the mission mode. So, what mission mode stands for is that you have to complete certain objectives depending on what missions you go into. Like, for example, we're going on to the first mission as Amy Rose, and obviously we have to beat Sonic in Journey forms of the rival race. So, certain missions can be divided into different catalogs, to be more specifically, like rival race, as well as the forms of knockout, and yeah, we can pretty much guarantee we can able to show off every single missions of how this game actually has to offer. Well, including with the forms of not only the Xbox 360 version, as well as the Wii version as well. So yeah, it's great able to be going back into this game at long last, because as a result, no matter what though, I've heard about the fact that this entire playthrough of Sonic and SEGA All-Stars Racing was actually quite popular, especially notable because I'm pretty concerned about the fact that a lot of Sonic fans out there do have a lot of nostalgic memories when it comes to experience this game, since on the Xbox 360 version, because obviously in that version does include not only Banjo-Kazooie based off from the design from the likes of Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts, but it's also with the forms of the Avatar as well. However though, unlike the Wii version, you do able to actually play as your Mii, which I'm sure you might be familiar with that particular point. And in addition to that though, I think that's as far as we can able to say about the forms of one of those specific exclusive characters you can only experience for the sake of the forms of whatever version you're going to be playing through. And yes, I did somehow got the trophy by the way, because again, I'm going to be playing on the PlayStation 3 version, and and suffice to say, I'm afraid to tell you is about the fact that much like the Xbox 360 version, it's a shame about the fact that I've lost my save data. So because of that though, hopefully it won't give me that much trouble for the sake of the forms of trying to able to experience every single missions of how this game actually has to offer. Although, I was originally trying to do this on the Wii version. I mean, let's face it though, I think I've already explained about that ever since in Journey Forms of any extra video for this entire Let's Play itself. Obviously though, about the fact that one of those missions in particular coming up is going to be pretty terrible when it comes to dealing with motion controls and stuff like that. So, I'm a little bit more happy to able to actually stick around with the PlayStation 3 version as it is. So, either way, so yeah, that was the first mission as we've already done as Amy Rose. So obviously it's self-explanatory. It's about the fact that, oh wow, I got another trophy. So, that seems pretty cool and all that stuff. So the next mission we're going to be dealing with involves around drifting, and the more you're drifting, then obviously though you can get yourself some more stars, which able to actually guarantees you to able to actually get one of those ranks. Now as far as the ranking system as far as this is concerned, on the mission mode to be more specifically, is that you're actually able to actually come across into quite a lot of rankings depending on how well you did for certain missions. Like for instance, there's the E rank, which is a pretty terrible rank by the way, as well as the forms of the D rank, as well as the C rank, in addition to the B rank, and there's also the single A rank, in addition to double A rank, and finally, most notably, as you can tell, that we somehow achieved a triple A rank. So obviously, in order able to proceed to the next mission, or should I say, if you really want able to try to tackle through every single missions in this entire game, naturally speaking, though, there are only 64 missions in the entire game, so that's the whole entire process I'm going to be doing for this particular portion of this entire playthrough. So no matter what though, we can pretty much guarantee we can able to show off some different variety and what have you. So yeah, as far as you can definitely tell, the second mission requires you to able to do some bit of drifting as Amigo, taking place in Journey Forms of Sunshine Coast, I think is what it says anyway. Mind you, it's been a very long time since I actually have last played this game for sure, because I don't know about you, because I'm pretty much more accustomed to able to be playing through several other kart racing games recently, not only for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe for its entire DLC, but it's also with the forms of Crash Team Racing Nitro Field, so able to actually just trying to able to get as many of those Wumpa coins, so that way I can able to actually buy the multitude of playable characters, which, as you probably already expect, since that Tiana, she obviously did mention about this so many times back in Journey Forms of Princess Peach Showtime recently, that obviously we've already unlocked Spyro, which I think is actually pretty cool. Now originally though, I was decided able to try to unlock Tana, but unfortunately though, we somehow managed able to try to have to wait for this particular shuffle system when it comes to the forms of trying to able to refresh the page and all that stuff. You know exactly what I'm talking about, right? And in addition to that though, I was literally so close to able to actually get Tana as a playable character. But hopefully by that time, once I was trying to able to get some more Nintendo eShop cards eventually, then I should be able to try to able to unlock Tana, no problem. It's just about the fact that sometimes daily, you know, times in regards to the forms of the pit shop can sometimes feel a bit luck-based, as you probably already expect. So anyways, here we go on to the third mission right here, and basically all you have to do in this mission right here is all about the knockout. So basically though, you have to be, you know, at the very top of the leader, so just to ensure about the fact that you don't want to get too far behind, because if you couldn't tell, much like the forms of, let's say, elimination kind of missions from the likes of, let's just say, Team Sonic Racing or something like that. Basically though, it's about the fact that if you go far behind, likely also for like 7th or 6th or anything else like that, if you pay attention to the forms of a red colored number, that actually signifies you're about to get eliminated. Whilst if you manage to able to go onto a safe part, to be more specifically though, if you come across into a yellow colored number, then you should be safe and you can still able to continue on. So I will admit it though right away, I'm very glad to able to come back into this game like I said before, just because no matter what though, I don't know about you, but while looking back at Journey Forms of Team Sonic Racing just recently, not only from the likes of the forms of the Xbox One version, but it's also with the PlayStation 4 version as well, that I will admit though, it's hard for me to come back into that game. game. So, as a result, yeah, I should probably stick around with Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing at all times to me, because I have a lot of super nostalgia for it. So, or super nostalgic for it, I should say. So, but anyway, so yeah, once you make your way to the very top of the leader, then obviously you would able to win that mission. So, anyways, here we go on to the next mission, where basically is about the fact that we're going to be taking control of Sonic, of course. And as you can see, we ended up in the Battle Arena, which as a result, it appears to be by the forms of Seaside Square. Which, kind of thing about it though, the actual Battle Course design looks very similar to the forms of how it does it for Battle Course 1, from the likes of in any other Mario Kart games since Super Mario Kart, except the fact this is all 3D and everything. So basically in this mission right here, as you can tell, we need to collect a certain amount of rings, and then once you do manage to collect enough rings, then obviously though you would able to actually get the highest rank you can get. However though, here's the catch to the forms of the ranking system on mission mode, is that you need to aim for a singular A, or a double A, or a triple A ranks, because otherwise, if you manage to able to get that certain rank, then you can able to unlock the next mission. And in order to actually access to the final mission, which appears to be mission number 64, basically though, we have to get a certain amount of ranks based off from singular A, or double A, or triple A. So that way, that's the whole entire objective, in regards of the forms of trying to able to 100% everything in this whole entire game. So because of that though, which also applies to the forms of not only for the Wii version, but also with the Xbox 360 version, and on top of that, there's also the DS version as well, and even PC as well. So generally speaking though, yeah, I will try my best able to actually get myself some very, very good results, in terms of the forms of trying to able to get the highest rank as I possibly could. So either way, we shall see what happens in due time. So anyway, a few things I want to explain for this point today while we're doing this process of the forms of mission mode. Oh yeah, there might be a couple of times during the forms of mission mode that not only we have to do a singular race, but also at the same time though, in some other missions, we have to do a mini Grand Prix. So as a result, you know, in certain Grand Prix missions, is that we have to go for a serious amount of racetracks, just like the forms of how it does it on the regular Grand Prix mode, except the fact that we have to do with 3 tracks as opposed to 4. So relatively speaking, that way we can able to explain more about it if we decide able to continue doing more missions. So as you can see, we now moved on to the 5th mission, where basically we have to take control of Shadow with this very cool motorcycle, which as a result, fun fact, that the actual motorcycle in journey forms of one of those specific events, ranging from the forms of MotoGP, it does look pretty awesome from the look of it anyway. It is almost exactly look-alike, except the fact that obviously if you couldn't tell, that I somehow missed that event. So because of that though, yeah, it's kind of difficult to explain. And also, kind of thinking about it though, since we are in 2024 after all, this means about the fact that this is going to be a true definition of the year of Shadow the Hedgehog, of course. In this case, the ultimate life form, when it comes to the forms of the majority of the Sonic characters, as you probably already expect. So, anyway, a few things I want to explain, and that's what appears to be about the fact that, well, today's date, of course, there is the 22nd of April today, in some cases in 2024 today. And guess what, folks? It's about the fact that we've only just got about 4 more days to go until Knuckles the series is definitely going to be releasing on Paramount Plus. And I'm sure enough, though, is about the fact that I'm sure that Sonic fans will be super excited about it, myself included. So as a result, I'm super pumped about the forms of this particular part. And in fact, that recently, not too long ago actually, I've seen a brief clip about the forms of one of those specific scenes that involves around, let's just say, Maddie is having a chat with the forms of not only Sonic and Tails, to able to actually know about the forms of, well, we're probably not going to mention more details about this just yet though, because obviously the entire series has not been out just yet, until, as I said before, for 4 days for the likes of most regions, well, usually for the UK version has to wait until for about 5 days. So, exponentially speaking though, as far as what both I would say like Pac-Man or Mario and Sonic have briefly mentioned about, that obviously we have to wait for a little longer, which I suppose it really doesn't matter to me too much, because obviously though, as I said this before, that I'm glad to be back on this game at long last. Especially noticeable, as I said before, we decided to do the different version as opposed to the Xbox 360 version. So, because obviously though, we've already managed to able to completely done with some Sonic Let's Plays on specific Xbox 360 games and all that stuff. and I'm surprised that we've never actually touched upon the specific Sonic game to be released on the Xbox One. Well, mind you, because we've already tackled some Sonic games from the Nintendo Switch version, as well as the PlayStation 4 version. So, exponentially speaking, though, is about the fact that until at some point in the future, we will still be able to actually make it happen, we're able to try to do Sonic Superstars, basically. So, alongside with Sonic Cross Shadow Generations as well, so that way, it'll make things quite a fun experience when it comes to going back onto the majority of those Sonic games again, so we can able to potentially try to able to show off some extra content, extra stuff, and you name the rest. So, anyway, and as you can see, we're now on to the next mission, where basically though is about the fact that we need to break the targets, just like in Super Smash Bros. Except the fact that we are on the go-kart, so basically in order to able to break the targets, is that we need to able to grab specific items, ranging from, well, let's just say right about now, we've only got the green boxing gloves, specifically 3 of those things to be more specifically, which basically is kind of like the equivalent to the triple green shells from Mario Kart, except the fact that obviously though, it's kind of hard for me to able to try to get used to with the controls again, because like I said before, I'm pretty much more accustomed to the forms of the Xbox 360 controller, in addition to the forms of playing Mario Kart 8 Deluxe a lot, as well as the forms of Crash Team Racing Nitro Fueled recently, because like I said before, I will try my best able to try to unlock every single characters before the actual online service is about to shut down for the likes of Crash Team Racing Nitro Fueled, which I'm hoping that's not the case, because obviously though, I really do enjoy that particular remake though after a while, especially noticeable because if I was going to be waiting for something new to come out, then obviously though, I always attempt to boot up with that particular Crash Team Racing Nitro Fueled in my spare own time. So, anyways though, and I did somehow fail the actual starting boost right there, but that's okay though, because we can just simply retry on the fly, so that way, we don't have to worry about the forms of some very long drawn out load times or anything else like that. So, yeah, exponentially speaking though, is that as you can see, that we've decided able to play as Beat from Jet Set Radio, and as a result, we're going to be participating in journey forms of the next mission, which involves around boosting. So the longer you try to boost, obviously though you get yourselves your stars granted. And again, no matter what though, if you in order able to actually try to advance to a next mission, you always have to make sure you need to able to be exactly at A rank or higher, because otherwise though, if you really want to get out of your way to able to go after one of those trophies in particular, like for instance, if you really want to able to pass through every mission, then obviously though you can get one of those trophies or achievements, whilst usually relatively speaking though, if you really want to get out of your way to able to do a 400% playthrough, then obviously though you have to be absolute perfection, at least in every single mission. So because of that though, but then again, I will try my best if I decide to reach that rank. So, anyways though, aside from all that stuff though, I think coming up actually is going to be a mini Grand Prix mission. So because of that though, and I believe something tells me though is about the fact that we're going to be playing as Sonic in that particular next mission, which appears to be mission 8. And sure enough, we have to go into specific tracks based off from Sandy or Seaside Hill. So no matter what though, we can able to traverse into not only Whale Lagoon, as well as Lost Palace, and even especially noticeable with Ocean Ruin. So yeah, you probably already see these tracks in action. If for those of you already seen our regular Grand Prix playthrough, Journey forms have been advanced difficulty mode, because I was originally back then, that I was originally trying to able to be up for the challenge by selecting expert mode, but I feel like I couldn't be bothered able to get my butt kicked after all. So either way, let's head into Whale Lagoon, but this time, no matter what though, we're playing it on the PS3 version for the sake of the Grand Prix missions. So because of that though, sometimes I will admit though right away is that the Grand Prix missions might take a bit while, but thankfully though, as you can tell, on the lap counter is actually 2 laps as opposed to 3. So relatively speaking though, it should make things a little bit more shorter compared to the forms of how it does it on the regular Grand Prix mode. But I'm sure enough though, it will be twice as fun to able to go back into this game every nowadays. Especially noticeable, it's a shame about the fact that this game has not got itself its actual backwards compatibility, at least specifically on the Xbox 360 version, because as far as I'm aware, that this is the only Sonic game next to Sonic the Hedgehog 2006, alongside with the forms of Sonic Free Riders, is that those 3 games in particular was not even in backwards compatibility list for the Xbox One, including Xbox Series X/S. So I'm not exactly sure why that seems to be the case. It is also worth noting for it will be very unfortunate indeed about the fact that once until July decides to roll around, to be more specifically, on the 29th of July this year, it all makes the point about the fact that the Xbox 360 marketplace will eventually shut down. So this means you can no longer try to get the DLC for the Xbox 360 version of Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing. This means you will miss out on getting Metal Sonic alongside with the forms of Egg Hanger, neither especially noticeable with this cosmetic card for the sake of the forms of Ryu from Shenmue, which we'll explain more about that if we decide able to play as Ryu from Shenmue series until in one of those later missions. So because of that though, yeah, I somehow became #1, at least to be more specifically in Whale Lagoon. So anyway, so let's get to the forms of another topic at this point, and I'm sure about the fact that between both Pac-Man alongside with Mario and Sonic have been desperately able to try to mention about this until right now, then that's what appears to be certain announcements they did bring. Thanks to the forms of the latest ND World, and as far as what Pac-Man has already stated about this before, since that after all he did recently finish up the entire playthrough of Winnie the Pooh's Rumbly Tumbly Adventure for the Game Boy Advance version, that it's about time we can now able to finally mention about the forms of what specific announcements they did bring recently. Although before we get on to more details on that topic though, it's about the fact that exponentially speaking now, out of nowhere, is that we're about to be getting ourselves a yet another collaboration for Minecraft, and except this time around though, it's going to be having ourselves a collaboration with Kung Fu Panda. So yeah, that's actually quite interesting, especially noticeable that was around that time when recently Kung Fu Panda 4 was still on the forms of the cinemas recently, so it'll make sense to able to actually have ourselves a yet another collaboration with the forms of Minecraft in mind. So yeah, that's actually quite interesting. So anyways though, as you can tell, we're now on to Lost Palace, which again, if you ever try able to experience the demo version of Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing, specifically the Xbox 360 version of that particular demo, not only you can able to play as Sonic, but also with Banjo and Kazooie, and the only track you can only play it on, and that's what appears to be Lost Palace, which I think I have some strong memories when it comes to able to be going back into that particular track. Although I'm sure enough though is about the fact that recently, every nowadays, that certain tracks for the likes of this game, alongside with the forms of Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed, well, some exceptions mind you, that certain tracks have been returned from the likes of the forms of Team Sonic Racing, which appears to be likely Whale Lagoon, as well as the forms of Lost Palace, and especially noticeable with Ocean Ruin, neither especially noticeable with the forms of Roulette Road, and Pinball Carnival, and Bingo Party, as well as the forms of Turbine Loop, Dark Arsenal, and finally Thunder Deck, specifically with Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing selections of tracks. And as far as I'm aware, the only track it does make a return from ever since in Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed, that's what appears to be Ocean View, and that's all there is to really think about it. So sadly, there is no way we can able to actually see the Sky Century racetrack, as well as the forms of Starlight Carnival type of racetrack returns. Kind of unfortunate though, because I really do enjoy those particular racetracks for the sake of the forms of Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed in mind. So, anyways though, and also I totally forgot about the fact that every once in a while, about the fact that certain characters can able to use All-Stars at one point. Like for instance is that Big the Cat did somehow manage to able to summon the giant Froggy in order to able to actually just try to able to proceed onto this position. And as far as I'm usually concerned is about the fact that it's actually kind of weird to look back on during the forms within the map system for the sake of this game in particular, because all it shows is just basically how the distance works out for the sake of not only for yourself, but also with certain computer players as well. So yeah, it's kind of weird about the forms of how this map system plays out to be, whilst unlike in, you know what I'm saying, All-Stars Racing Transformed, including Team Sonic Racing, that shows us a proper map. So, yeah, it's kind of strange though, but then again, this game did first came out in 2010, which, geez, been like 14 years ago. Like, can you believe it? But either way, so yeah, let's get to the forms of that particular topic, shall we? let's just say, specific game announcements are interesting to say the least when it comes to the forms of ND World in mind. However, though, there are certain games in particular, though, I wasn't really going to be able to be fond of trying to able to be getting it, and in addition to that, though, is about the fact that, well, as what Pac-Man has already stated this before, that we are pretty disappointed with that particular ND World recently, and I'm will have to admit it though right away, I really do miss the old days of how the fact that when it comes to Nintendo Directs these days, especially noticeable, they're going on to a strange decision, and usually relatively speaking though, I just really hoping about the fact that, well, they're able to actually bring the last first-party Nintendo titles batch of games just before they moved on to the forms of, well, the new hardware for the Nintendo company, which understandably so, because obviously we have to rely on the forms of not only remasters but also with ports territory at the moment. So just to ensure about the fact that, well, just like the 3DS, obviously though is about the fact that we have to deal with the forms of some small titles, and exponentially we have to deal with the forms of you know, remasters, ports, remakes every once in a while, which I honestly don't mind at all, because obviously no matter what though, I'm pretty concerned about the fact that we've now on to almost a month left until Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door for the Nintendo Switch is going to be releasing soon. So because of that though, still I'm very excited for it, and I'm sure enough though we'll be able to actually hopefully try to see some more details about the forms of that specific upcoming remake. So I'm sure enough though it will be really awesome. So anyway, let's get to the forms of specific games they did bring, shall we? The first game they did somehow revealed for that particular recent ND World, and this is actually kind of a cool one. That's what appears to be Little Kitty Big City. That particular game to me though does kind of reminds me like a similar vibes as the forms of, you know, the game called Untitled Goose Game. Well, the actual concept looks a bit similar, except the fact that you're able to take control of a cat as opposed to a goose. So, well, I'm pretty sure the entire gameplay style plays pretty identical, well, except the fact that I've not exactly known about the forms of Untitled Goose Game for some time. But exponentially speaking though, I'm very curious about the forms of how Little Kitty Big City plays out to be. And sure enough though, it does confirm its release date, and that's going to be confirmed to be released until 9th of May. So that's going to be roughly about quite a few days now. So as we expected, it's going to be coming onto the Nintendo Switch for sure. And the next game after that, which appears to be by the forms of, let's just say, Yars Rising, and it's going to be coming out in sometime in this year, in 2024. And the next game after that, which appears to be Refined Self, the personality test game, and it's about to due out at some point in this summer, specifically this year in particular. It could be roughly around, it could be, well, it might come out in Journey forms of in sometime. Well, actually, I just like doing this because just for the sake of consistency, and in addition to that, just want to get that particular trophy, because obviously though, every time whenever I do manage to replay this game, it doesn't really matter if it's either on the Wii version, or the PlayStation 3 version, or the Xbox 360 version. I always love to do some pretty cool shenanigans when it comes to achieving not only achievements, but also with trophies as well, because I already know for a fact that in the Wii version also has some achievements as well. But usually, relatively speaking, it's a bit tricky to explain, because it's been ages since I actually have last played the Wii version, because I don't know about you, I'm pretty much more accustomed to with the actual controller rather than just with the Wiimote sideways. Well, that's just mainly because with motion controls, sometimes it can be hit and miss, sometimes, but either way. So let's move on to the next mission right now, and that's what appears to be time gates. So basically in this particular mission right here, is that we have to go through all these time gates before the time runs out. Because if the time runs out, obviously though, you might technically fail the mission, and you might get yourselves a bit of a lower rank. So yeah, you really want to master your drifting skills at one point, and exponentially speaking though, once you make your way to the very end, then obviously the mission itself will be succeed, no problem. So, although kind of thinking about it though, I was originally able to mention about the rest of this stuff for the sake of the forms of whatever specific announcements they did bring recently, but let's just say it's probably best if we let Tiana will mention more about the specific details until specifically for tomorrow, because as far as I'm concerned about the fact that, well, no matter what though, that, to be honest, she's almost at the halfway point in terms of the actual proceedings for Princess Peach Showtime. So because of that, though, yeah, best of luck for her anyway, just to ensure for the fact that we can able to actually, like, you know, catch up for more of those uploading schedules in particular. So, either way, and quite frankly, though, is about the fact that we were originally trying to able to actually do a redo Let's Play of Sonic the Hedgehog 4 Episode 1, or Episode Metal, or Episode 2, but it's probably best if we save that for later, because it's especially noticeable, because exponentially speaking, I was about the fact that at this point in time, enjoying the forms of this weekend coming up, within Saturday and Sunday, that both Mario and Sonic are still playing through classic Donkey Kong arcade games so far, even though generally speaking, so far they've only done one of them, which appears to be Donkey Kong in 1981, not only for the arcade, but also with the NES version as well, just to be able to compare two versions in particular. So, and here we go on to the 10th mission, where basically we can able to play as Alex Kidd by just participating in a race. So as a result, in order to able to actually get AAA ranked on these specific missions like this, I'm pretty sure I need to come first place at all times. I'm pretty sure that's where it's at. So either way though, and another thing is worth noting for is about the fact that it seems that it's kind of weird about the fact that when it comes to the forms of, while looking at the forms of those casino chips, that for some reason it does manage to contain some pretty strange artwork for the sake of the forms of not only for Sonic, but also with Tails and especially for Shadow or something like that. While then again though, like I said before, it's been about 7 years ago since we've last played this game for sure, and I'm very glad that seems to be the case, because technically we've already experienced the single player campaign when it comes to the forms of not only Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed back in 2019 either way, as well as Team Sonic Racing as well. During the forms of it, let's just say in Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed, you're able to actually go into World Tour, and when it comes to Team Sonic Racing, you can able to experience Team Adventure mode, which is essentially it's like a single player campaign, and you would able to complete certain objectives until you're able to unlock something. Well, usually for Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed, you can able to actually unlock stuff, whilst compared to Team Sonic Racing, aside from giving you certain achievements or trophies, and in addition to that though, they're just there for the sake of the forms if you really want to proceed to the story, and especially noticeable about the fact that if you really want to know of the curiosity as far as I'm usually concerned of, well, then again though, it's hard to say about that, I guess, because it's been like 4 years ago since I actually have last played Team Sonic Racing, since on the Nintendo Switch version back in during the forms of this miserable year that we've somehow experienced already. So, let's not get ahead of ourselves at this point. So I think 10 missions might be enough for me, so I'm also able to take a break from here. And as far as I'm aware, in Journey Forms of the later parts, I will try my best able to complete more missions than ever will be. And of course, since I somehow purchased the DLC for the PlayStation 3 version as well, obviously every time whenever you go back to the main menu, it just somehow fades out for a bit in black, so this means that sometimes it might take a bit while to load. So with that being said, folks, is that we get the endings off this point right here. So join me next time for more of Let's Play of Sonic and SEGA All-Stars Racing. For mission mode, is that we're about to do mission 11, Jet Set Slide. So I'll see you guys until on Wednesday. Later, fellas.